because he mentioned about Tantra, and I didn't know too much about this. And so I learnt that there's 3 different kinds. There's black, grey, and white. And do you know much about this?
Well, again, we come to the same sort of conclusion that in this day and age, people divide reality. People divide reality. They're ready to name yoga different names. But are there many yogas? There's only one yoga, and that's called the integration of the spiritual with the physical. And not only, it's not even integration, it's kind of like bringing that awareness from the body into, or expanding that awareness, words fail again here, expanding that awareness to the ultimate, and again realizing that that ultimate is manifested into the physical. Now, people have tried different paths and created and interpreted one and the same path in many ways due to their personal corruption, due to their personal degradation, and due to the fact that true parampara, true tantra parampara is at the moment is hardly alive. There are still some masters, less than probably fingers on my one hand, that truly are the vessels of that very teaching. Siddha Tantra is the actual science of conscious manifestation and liberation of the self from the manifestation. It's not any separate from yoga. It has nothing to do with all these false paths which say propagate sexual practices and stuff like that. True spiritual teachings never aim at creating sexual taboos or any forms of taboos. But it doesn't mean that they propagate promiscuity either. Because sexual freedom means spiritual freedom. But understanding of what means by that requires a lot of wisdom and refinement, because it can be misinterpreted. Sexual promiscuity and unrefined desires arise from this very fact that we're disconnected from the self. And the way we express ourselves somehow finds impediments on the way, so the flow is obstructed. If the flow is unobstructed, there is no such a separation within one's consciousness or division in the reality, or the division of the reality into sexual and spiritual, because it's one stream of being. Because this division exists in people's minds, their minds create gray, blue, white, red tantras. The pure teaching is only in the form of parampara. It's beyond words. True tantra happens through such a phenomena as pramkaya pravesh, which means that the consciousness of the living master, the consciousness of the living Siddha Tantra, you have to be the vessel of that, or you are not that. You are the vessel of meditation, of absorption, of emanation, of yoga, and of Siddha Tantra, or you are not. There is no gray area here. Either this or this. And so when that master, when true master achieved that refinement, who is a true master? Is a refined being. Refined being. But there are no taboos for this kind of a being. They live absolutely freely. Such a state is called Jivanmukti state, because they are free while being alive. So their subtle essence is absolutely connected with the ultimate. So their light beings are matured. So that's why they are called masters. So if their consciousness is manifested, they perceive themselves through each and every aspect of the manifested reality. They are the masters of the manifested reality, but they are free from that reality in the sense that they are experiencing that, at the same time being aware of all the aspects of the selves and yet not tangling in that experience, as well as they have all kinds of abilities to alter this reality, yet they are not selfish in their motives, but rather selfless and pure vessels of the knowledge. So their presence in touch with other, let's say, vessels or limited consciousness vessels create a tremendous impact, because in a way their consciousness in a way is like pouring into the limited vessel or connects with that in a space which is unlimited. So through this phenomena, the experience of the master can be perceived in the experience of another human being, another limited vessel with consciousness, because the presence of the master kind of activates through their presence the consciousness, the limited consciousness of the other human being. And when that is activated, it's called activation or Shaktipat, awakening. So that limited consciousness also expands and reconnects. And so the mechanism of self-knowledge is activated, but it depends on the limited consciousness in which that mechanism has been activated, whether that seed will sprout out or will be tangled through the refinement process. Most of the people perish and tangle because they're incapable of completing the refinement process. And so they create some kind of obscure knowledge about these things. They do have some sort of experience, but they are not able to continue further and refine further because of lack of selflessness, lack of true understanding of the path within and how the process of refinement happens and how they have to let go, because Siddha Tantra is about complete liberation, which means letting go. But it's so easy to say that I want us to let go. It's not about abandonment of the world. It's not about abandonment, or it's not about trying to despise your body or try to limit yourself in any sense, or trying to separate yourself from the rest. It's about actually emerging, kind of like, or involving, immersing yourself into the world and navigating. That's why most of the masters call this world as the ocean of illusion, because there are all kinds of experiences and phenomena, and we are not to run away from that. We cannot. But we can immerse ourselves consciously and realize that every single experience is absolutely the same at the core, because only the perception defines it. The mind analyzes or brings it back. Yet if the mind dwells in its own nature, every experience seems to be neutral and the same, or empty at its core, as many Siddha masters said. So true Siddha Tantra is the path to biospiritual immortality, because the more we refine, the more we purge all this nonsense from within, it reflects on our physical body. It reflects on our spiritual might. And this spiritual might emanates and touches others, touches the consciousness of others effortlessly. True masters never want to teach, they share. Yet the true masters will never give true knowledge just like that, because there has to be dedication, and this dedication is unlimited. As the path is unlimited, there can be no limit to dedication. That's what most of the true masters have, only 1 to 3 maximum disciples, and rather all other followers. Because true teaching can be tasted, it can be experienced, true. But to go with it until that human evolutionary end is very difficult, because it requires a lot of observation, a lot of self, in a way, sacrifice, because, and it's not any kind of sacrifice for anyone, it's within the self. It's that kind of sacrifice where you realize that everything is absolutely transitory, not because it's written somewhere, but because that's how you see it. That's because the more your perception refines, the more your attitude is of the nature of non-interference, because you see that everything is right, because the experience is neutral, the manifestation is neutral, yet each individual's consciousness kind of defines that experience through their limited perception. So what we are doing through Siddha Tantra, we are refining our perception, because the perception has got lots of these limited sort of, I would say, limited, obscure views on reality. And even though it is sometimes easier to refine the body, to purify the body, to detox the body, the true refinement of the body will not take place unless there is true awakening and reconnection with the ultimate, and the subtle body is refined, which means emotional, intellectual, and mental levels. So that's why most of these paths of pseudo-yoga, pseudo-tantra are not leading anywhere. They are not leading to rejuvenation, to agelessness, to immortality. We are not seeing it, because there is something wrong with that knowledge. That is obscure knowledge. That is the knowledge of the ego wanting to pursue a spiritual ambition, wanting to pursue something and getting something. This is absolutely selfless path. You're not doing it for anyone, not even yourself. You are just living life so consciously, so really, so freely, that there is no thought, there is no second thought of anything, about anything. And it's so difficult to grasp this. And my words, what I'm sharing at the moment, could be very much taken out of context and misinterpreted, because true freedom is not an abusive freedom. True freedom is not something that imposes. True freedom is not something that actually looks ever back, looks ever ahead, or judges. It's an absolute free expression of self, and each moment is one moment only. Stepping out of each moment is a new moment. Such mind does not get tarnished. The liberated mind does not get tarnished by experience any longer. That's the difference. But who can check that? People buy words, people buy good talks, but they do not understand that true knowledge is only the experience. And the experience that has to produce the same experience, and not only the experience, but the being. Many people bet on one-time experience, two-time experience. It's the true experience, it's the being, it's something that lasts. And that being refines the limited perception, the veiled perception. That's why true path is the path of constant refinement, which results in the body. And whether you stay celibate, you don't stay celibate, that is your decision. It can be temporary positive for you, temporary, it can have certain effects, but all these paths of exertion of the body, of constant training, detoxing and all, they're not leading anywhere. Even sexual tantra, which is absolutely perverted and has nothing to do with reality. There are certain aspects and certain practices, it's true, but they cannot be practiced unless the person's being is that tantra, is that refined, empty, blissful being. Because from that being, the knowledge and the practices are seen as something else than what they are seen as of now. And so these kind of practices should be forbidden for the majority of people. But falsely, people think that this is the path of power. The power, if in wrong hands, the same as knowledge, it's self-protected. It protects itself. It will never unfold in wrong hands, even in this Kali Yuga. People do practice something, they use black magic and think that it's Tantra. They've taken some limited knowledge about manifestation and applied it in a wrong way. That's why we call it occult and black magic. But when it's disconnected from the root, it finds its way, temporary way, somewhere in this reality. It brings some people money and some people some false result, yet it tangles people more into this reality rather than it liberates them.